Hi, how are you today? I'm good. The Cultivar cup. All right, so we got the Cultivar cup. The Cultivar cup is coming up in just 8 weeks. What's up, guys? My name is Doma Nunzio from Magic Myco fam, and I'm here today. All right, this is the last time I'm doing this. What's up, guys? It's Doma from Magic Myco, and I'm here today to talk about the Cultivar Cup. The Cultivar Cup Summer Solstice event is coming up in just 7 or 8 weeks, so I thought now would be a good time to start going over the entry forms, the submission process, and any of the questions that the members might have, talk about the details and intricacies around the process of entering this contest. You really want to get in on this one, guys. It's going to be fantastic. So I thought while we're at it, we could take a little tour of the lab, show you guys some of the updates to our gear and methodologies. Hang on to your hats because it's going to be a hell of a time. I just wanted to show you guys these statues because they're really cool. When you go into our place, we got these terracotta warriors. There's one here and there's one down on the bottom. Let's see if I can zoom in. So we're up on the 2nd floor, and you come into our place, and you see the Magic Myco banner right there. Got my locker and put my stuff away. It's a little shipping center. This is kind of like the lounge area and the office area. This is like where we hang out and eat. This is where I sleep and do a whole bunch of computer work on orders and inventory, play a little music and exercise over here. So when you first send the samples into us, you end up over here. This is the kitchen and like the place where we process grains and agar pressure cookers and all our additives and kiosk. So the sample comes in and it gets logged. It goes right into the computer, it gets weighed, and it gets logged into our inventory kiosk management system. It's a LIMS ELN system, which we had to get for certification, and it sure makes things a hell of a lot more organized here. It's on every computer. So when a sample or something comes in, it gets logged into the computer, roughly weighed, sample ID, label, QR code, stickers, and all that come out of the printer and everything, and put everything into storage if it's not getting done right away. If it is getting done, once we're ready to do it, we could do a moisture analysis. Here's our moisture analyzer. This is a thermogravimetric moisture analyzer, which uses a halogen lamp. And we could do the moisture analysis right here. From there, it ends up at this other weigh station where the sample is prepped and broken down further into sample weights and into tubes and labeled appropriately with all those labels and stickers and stuff like that. And when we're ready to do the testing, we do our sample prep, which involves MAE and UAE ultrasonic. Here's our big ultrasonic. We also have another ultrasonic over here by the pH station, is where we prep all our mobile phases and stuff, and got the rack right there and all the tubes fit in there perfectly. It's good for small stuff. We could use that ultrasonicator. And then it gets extracted with a syringe and a syringe filter. So back in the kitchen when we're processing the, let me just focus there. In the beginning, when we're processing the sample back in the kitchen, we powder it and we put them in these little vials. And these little vials are great because we can use them multiple times. A lot of times when you send us a sample, we don't just test it once, we keep doing the research. Like right now, we would do in DNA sequencing and PCR amplification. So this is one of my main stations where I, work on the solvents and microscopy. We got a couple big flow hoods here. So once it's time to be tested, we've got our HPLC workstations here. We have 2 HPLC workstations. Agilent, it's name brand standard gear in the industry. We have our smaller compact unit, which I basically restored myself. I rebuilt the pumps, redid all the tubings, the detector, everything. Even made our own column heater there. As you see, it's not a stock column heater, that's a custom column heater. And our other big bad boy here is our 1100 unit. So the compact unit is a 2009 that I rebuilt, and the big boy 1100 is a 1996. And I didn't have to do much to it. I think it's been rebuilt since, so I didn't have to do much. This one has 2 pumps and an auto sampler. Otherwise, it has the same detector. Got all kinds of columns. As you see, I study and I research a lot on HPLC and different kinds of solvents and reagents. We're even developing kits, reagent kits and stuff like that to test for different compounds and analytes. We're also a big fan of the Miraculous kits. Felix Blee is my mentor and instructor. He helps me a lot with any coaching or learning. I took a few classes from him and he's helped me greatly. Many other people have helped me too in this business, so thank you to all of them. So this is our lab, guys. This is where we process everything. You guys might know I also do the Myco coil thing, which is basically just a service I do for the community. I don't really make money on it. I just build some boxes like these here. The induction coils. I have a trademark on that, and a patent. Anyway, we have another computer there. So we got the new computer system. We got the LIMS installed on every computer. So the labeling, the organization now is top notch. It's up to ISO standards. So this is where everything gets processed. I even got a little pool table and a ping pong table because you got to have a little fun when you're in the lab too. A little break time. To be honest, I don't get to it much, and the table often gets used to prepare something else. Alright, what's up guys? So we're in the kitchen part of the lab. This is also where we do sample intake. I thought we'd spend a little time, show you guys how we do sample intake, how we take the sample in, log it, prep it, and test it. So we have a little log book here. This is called our ship's log. And basically it's a notation of all the things I do all day. So I like to note that I'm doing some inventory and entering some cannabis samples. And I like to note the date and the time that I do that. Just in case later on we want to come back, there's some useful information in my ship's log that usually isn't available in, other systems. So for this part of the process, we need to enter the sample into the computer. So we have a LIMS system, otherwise known as an ELN system. It's a system which helps us with our inventory, sample intake, or consumables and reagents and all of our stock. This is actually a system that I learned about during application processes applying to become a certified ISO certified state cannabis testing lab. So this is essential and mandatory part of the process, and I'm very glad that this is a system that we've implemented now. It's going to keep things very organized for us. So the first thing I have to do is I have to weigh my sample and enter it into the computer. We have computers all over the lab with this system, and it's connected to a labeling system which prints out all our labels with QR codes and names of the sample. So all we have to do is scan the QR code and it'll take us right to the inventories page very easily. So I just had to log into my system because I got logged out. So I'm going to add a new inventory item. I add it in as a sample intake. I add the name of the sample, which is GDP. Now, and I'm just going to add the item. So now it's in the inventory, it's in the computer. I could go here, I could print out my labels by just clicking a button, and we know exactly how much we have in stock. From this point, the sample will get grinded up in one of a few various grinders that we have here. And whether we want to do moisture analysis or not, the moisture analysis will be done on that machine right there to make it anhydrous. Some samples we don't want to do that because it may damage the sample. So we also like to do comparison tests, do one as a control without, and then do another one with, because that is a reason why labs have freeze dryers, is to quickly make all the samples the same, anhydrous, maybe store them away, maybe we're not going to test them right away, we're not going to test them until next week or something, so we just want to make them the same and kind of freeze the state that it's in, or keep it in the state that it's in. So normal freezing would normally hurt some of these tryptamines if you were just to freeze it in a fresh, wet fruit. So that's why we ask for the samples to be dried before they're sent to us, also for contamination reasons. But when we receive them, they still usually have some moisture content, especially when it comes to mushrooms. With cannabis, not so much, but state mandatory, we do need to be able to test for moisture analysis. So we have the moisture analysis right there. I'm skipping that today, so I'm just gonna, skip over it, but in the future you might see more use of that. So from there, the sample comes over to our weighing station. This is our professional weighing and sample prep station. This is where I have the sonoporator, various scales, and all my different gear needed to prep a sample. So I have a staging scale here, and I also have an analytical balance. So my sample, I am going to weigh out the amount that I wanted. In this case, I want 100 milligram sample. In some cases, I'll use a 50 milligram sample. But for this one, I'm going to do 100. So I start on my staging scale. I get it to my 100, which can be a little tricky. The reason why we go to 100 now and not 50 is because it's actually a slightly more accurate test. All right, 100 on the money. So now I'll move over to my analytical balance, very high precision scale. And so it's like it gets weighed twice. And if we want, we can adjust here. Whether it's right on the money or not doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why in a second. Let it just, because this scale takes a few seconds to kind of... Okay, so it wasn't exactly 100 milligrams. It's 981. I always try to get it right on the money. So I would keep fiddling with it. I would even go back and forth between the staging scale and this scale a few times and reset it, maybe even recalibrate the scales if needed to get it right on the money. Like I said, it could be a little time consuming to do that. If I wanted, I could leave it at 981. It's connected to a printer down there. All we have to do is hit the button and it just printed the number down there, 981. That receipt will go along with the sample and be used in the final concentration calculation for the solution. All right, so from there, I'm going to get a fresh tube and I'm going to add my sample. Make sure I get it all into the tube. And I'm going to set it into the scale and tare it. And now I'm ready to add my solvent. I have this really nifty automatic pipette controller. And this is a 100 milligram sample, and we want to have, actually it's a 981 milligram sample, and we want to have a final concentration that's around 20 milligrams. So we're going to use 5 milliliters of 100% methanol for this one. So for this, I just tighten this on here, squeeze the top, and we're ready to go. I just have to get my 100% methadol, which I moved. I moved it. All right, we'll just cut that out later. All right, so I got my 100% methanol, and I got the top glass open. I'm gonna make sure my scale is nice and steady and tared. I'm gonna look at the weight of my solvent. I'm at 66 degrees, and I'm using 100%. So the weight is supposed to be 0.793. 793 times 5. But with a pipette this large, we really don't need to worry about this figure too much. We're just going to use the 981 figure. This is more important to weigh the solvent when we're working with 1 milligram sample solvent versus 50 milligram sample starting material. So what I like about this controller is we can control it so nicely and get it right on the line easily with the little flick of this button. I'm controlling with my thumb, and then I get all the solvents in there. And like I was saying, because this is a 5 milliliter tube, you know, this is going to be right on the money. I don't have to worry too much, but we are going to try to figure it out anyway. Eject the rest of the solvent. This one's done. So the final weight is 3.954. We will hit the button and print that number. Let me close the top first. It stops all the air currents. 3.954. Hit the button to print it. And now I have both of those figures down there on that printer receipt, so I can use both of those numbers in the calculation. From here, the sample comes out, and we're going to go over to the vortex mixer. Here, we're just going to give it a simple vortex mix. Now, this is a cannabis sample, so the sample prep process for mushrooms and cannabis is slightly different. So I like to give the cannabis samples a really good vortex mix and pull it straight out. So we're going to do that now. Got a couple big chunks in there, cannabis chunks. That's because I'm making a video. Otherwise it would have been nice and grinded. Alright, it's okay. Let's give it a little more mix. Now I'm going to get a syringe. We're going to pull everything out of there. I got a whole syringe filled. This is a lot of solvent. I can make many HPLC vials with this. With these two, there was 5 milliliters, so you know I can make many HPLC vials with this. I only need very little of this solvent, and this is unfiltered, so it still needs to be filtered. One of these syringe filters and stick it on there. And I get an HPLC vial. And we just squeeze it right in. Nice and clear, a little bit green. That's from the chlorophyll. And if we heated that too much, it would get very green, and we would pull too much lipids and fats. This has all the analytes that we want to analyze in here. This is good to shoot directly into the machine now. See how nice and clear that is. So that's it. From here we could go right to the machine. And these are the machines. Got the 1100 and we got the 1120 compact, the 1120C. So I got my HPLC vial. I just did a cannabis extraction within about 20 minutes, not even. This is very easy extraction process for cannabis. If it was mushrooms, it would have taken me 2 hours. In the beginning, it was taking me 2 days. So I think we've got it, the efficiency up incredibly. So from here, I could go directly to either machine. This one is a manual injection, so I would have to shoot it in with a syringe, use a little bit more sample. With this one, it has an auto sampler with a very fine injection system that could use very, very small amounts. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's how we prep a sample. That's how we log it into the system and get it prepped, and from here we test it and create your reports. Thanks a lot for following me along on this little tour guide on sample intake, logging it in and prepping it and getting it to testing. Much love, guys. I hope to see you out there in the research community.